It started with a number that didn't belong. On the glowing screens of the New York Stock Exchange, as the evening staff began shutting down terminals for the night, one solitary ticker flashed a price that defied logic. The symbol belonged to a mid-tier energy company, steady for years, never flashy. Yet there it was, shares priced at nearly 10 times their closing value, an error so blatant it should have triggered alarms across the system. But the alert never came. The number flickered once, disappeared, and in its place the ordinary price reappeared as if nothing had happened. Except someone had seen it. Michael Duran, a senior compliance analyst at a private brokerage firm, wasn't even supposed to be watching that feed. His shift ended hours earlier, but habit kept him lingering, scanning patterns like a chess player memorizing the board. He froze when the anomaly appeared. To most, it would look like a technical hiccup. To him, it looked deliberate. A signal. Michael's instincts weren't born in finance, they came from 6 years as an Army intelligence officer. Patterns were his trade, and that flicker carried intent. He logged the moment, copied the raw feed, and slipped the drive into his pocket. He didn't know yet that by sunrise, 2 other analysts across the country who spotted similar anomalies would be dead. By morning, whispers had already begun on the trading floor. The market opened calmly, but Michael could feel an undertone of tension. He was scheduled for a compliance review with an executive team that rarely cared for his presence. But when he arrived, their tone was different, measured, almost defensive. The head of risk management, a man with an immaculate suit and an expression like steel, leaned forward and asked if he'd noticed anything irregular in the system. Michael lied. He mentioned nothing about the flicker, nothing about the drive in his pocket. That decision saved him. 2 hours later, his apartment was broken into. The locks weren't forced. Nothing was taken. But his files had been rifled through, his desk drawer left slightly ajar. Someone had been inside, looking for what he hadn't told them. That night, Michael called an old contact, a former cybersecurity officer at the SEC named Rachel Layton. She was retired, cautious, and never took calls after dark. But when he told her about the ticker anomaly, she went quiet. Then she said 3 words, "It's starting again." She explained in a whisper what she had never written down in her government files. A decade earlier, the SEC had uncovered evidence of a clandestine group operating within financial networks, insiders, coders, traders, all working to manipulate markets with surgical precision. They called it the wire. The group used microsecond glitches, deliberate flashes of false numbers, as signals markers for coordinated trades worth billions. But every time regulators closed in, the evidence dissolved like smoke. The anomaly Michael saw wasn't random. It was a marker. A message. And if he had it on his drive, then he wasn't just a bystander, he was in the crosshairs. The next morning, Rachel was found dead in her car, ruled a stroke by the local coroner. Michael knew better. Her call had lasted under 5 minutes, yet someone had known to silence her. He realized the scale of what he had stumbled into. Whoever controlled the wire was a rogue group of traders. It was something larger, embedded deep in Wall Street itself. Michael's options narrowed. He reached out to a financial journalist, Dana Brooks, whose exposés on insider trading had rattled firms before. She was skeptical at first. Her inbox overflowed with conspiracy claims daily, but when he showed her the raw feed, her expression hardened. "This isn't noise," she said. "It's code." Together they dug deeper. Dana traced back unusual trading volumes that coincided with similar anomalies over the past 3 months. Each time, a sector spiked briefly before stabilizing, leaving no trace except billions quietly redirected to offshore accounts. It wasn't about random profit. It was about leverage, power, and control of market movements so subtle the public would never see them. But someone did see. As Dana prepared her first draft of the story, her office was broken into. Her hard drives vanished, but her laptop left open on the desk was untouched. It was a warning. Michael urged her to back away, but she refused. "If this is real," she told him, "it's the biggest financial crime in history, and no one will believe it without names." Names, Michael realized, were exactly what they needed. Through an encrypted contact from his military days, he gained access to an internal audit of a major investment bank. Buried in the numbers was a trail of shell corporations, all feeding into a shadow entity registered out of Delaware. The name was Bland Omicron Holdings LLC, but the transactions tied directly to the anomalies. Omicron wasn't just a company. It was a hub. And its board included former Treasury officials, tech executives, and at least one sitting senator. Michael knew the evidence was dynamite. But he also knew possession of it painted a target on his back. 2 days later, a black SUV began following him, appearing in his rearview mirror no matter which bridge or tunnel he crossed. He stopped calling friends. He rotated hotels. He carried nothing but cash. Still, the pressure closed in. Dana managed to secure a meeting with a federal prosecutor she trusted. The prosecutor, skeptical but curious, agreed to review the files in person. They arranged to meet at a quiet diner in Queens. Michael arrived early, scanning every corner of the room, his instincts flaring with unease. The prosecutor never came. Instead, a young man in a pressed suit slid into the booth opposite Michael. His voice was calm, his smile disarming. He introduced himself only as Evan. Then he slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a single photo, Michael, leaving his apartment 2 nights earlier, the drive visible in his hand. Evan's tone was polite but edged with steel. "You don't understand what you've stumbled into. The wire isn't a crime. It's a safeguard. Without it, the system collapses." Michael stared at him, unsure if it was a threat or confession. Evan continued, "Markets are fragile. Confidence is everything. We make sure confidence never breaks. That's all you need to know." But Michael knew better. The wire wasn't about stability, it was about control. And if it remained in the shadows, the line between protection and exploitation would never be seen. That night, Dana's article vanished from every system she had uploaded it to. Her editor denied ever receiving it. Her email account was wiped clean. The silence was absolute, suffocating. Michael realized the truth then: the wire wasn't a group operating within the system. It was the system. Every institution, every regulator, every safeguard was part of its design. His discovery wasn't a secret waiting to be exposed, it was a mirror showing how deep the rot ran. He had 2 choices. Expose it and vanish into the shadows of whistleblower exile, or bury it and live under quiet surveillance, safe but complicit. The decision came to him as he boarded a late-night train out of Penn Station. In his bag was the last untouched copy of the raw feed. In his pocket was a prepaid phone with one unsent message queued to a secure journalist collective overseas. If he pressed send, the world would see a glimpse of the wire, enough to cause panic, enough to rattle markets, enough to strip away the illusion of stability. The train pulled away from the station. Michael stared at the phone, thumb hovering over the button, every fiber of his training screaming about consequences. Then the screen went black. Battery dead. When he looked up, he saw the reflection of a man in the glass across the aisle. Same suit. Same calm smile. Evan. The train roared into the tunnel, lights flickering overhead. For the first time, Michael understood the real truth: this story would never end on his terms. The wire didn't silence dissent with violence alone. It smothered it with inevitability, with the certainty that every move was anticipated, every choice already contained. And as the train hurtled deeper into darkness, he realized the most terrifying part wasn't that the wire existed. It was that it worked.